most, if not all of us, do what we do because we think it's worth doing. In other words, we do what we do because we think we're right. We may not think about it much, but each action that we take carries an implicit value judgment. For example, when I lace up my shoes every morning, I'm not just heading out the door to move my body through space. I am implicitly saying that running is the best use of my time, that there's good to be found in going for a run every morning. The philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre said that when a man chooses for himself, he chooses for all mankind. Sartre is making this point. He's making the point that every choice that we make sends this unconscious, unspoken message that whatever we're doing is good or worthwhile, or that we're right. The longer that we sit with this quote, the more that we can realize that there's kind of two levels to this. For example, for years, I thought that everyone should run. I thought that everyone could benefit physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, everything, if they were to run. And even more than that, I thought that if someone were to choose not to run, they would be missing out on something integral to the good life. That a life without running somehow is lesser than a life with running. I bought into the idea that we were born to run because it felt right, and so for years that's the idea that I brought with me. But the longer that I sat with that, the more that I realized that that's not necessarily true. There are people that will live their entire lives without running and will live a happy, healthy, wonderful, good life. And so the more that I sat with this quote, the more that I began to realize that there's the surface level action, but that's not really what Sartre was pointing at. He's going a bit deeper. And I just wanted to give a quick reminder that while these videos are explicitly about running, they're not about running. Running is just the platter that I use to serve philosophy, and so you should apply it to your life however it makes sense. But anyways, Sartre wasn't pointing to the surface level action. He wasn't saying that since I run ultra marathons that I think everyone should run ultra marathons. That would be absurd. I think Sartre understood that everyone has different circumstances and goals and interests. And so Sartre wasn't pointing at the surface level action. He was pointing at something deeper. He was pointing at the values that are below or serve as the foundation for our actions. And so Sartre is saying that however you choose to live your life, the values beneath the actions that you take are worth incorporating into your life. You are making a subjective, personal judgment call on what is worthwhile, admirable, or acceptable. And so, for example, if you choose to be honest in a situation where lying would be beneficial, you are saying that honesty is something worth incorporating into your life. If you choose to sacrifice for your children, you're saying that sacrificing for the people you love is meaningful and good. And if I choose to run, I'm implicitly saying that endurance and discipline are values that are worth incorporating into your life. And Sartre's point is that there is nothing that we can do that will relieve us from that responsibility. Every choice we make is a recommendation to humanity. And remember, this is the philosopher that said humans are condemned to be free. That's the level of freedom that Sartre believes that we have. We often think of freedom as liberating and this levity that comes with it, but Sartre saw the opposite. He saw freedom as heavy and a burden. Because if there is no predetermined script, then there's nothing you can do, nothing you can point at that will relieve you from the burden of choosing. Because every time you make a choice, every time you take action, you are offering up a definition of what you think human life ought to be. Okay, so what happens when people choose to be greedy or selfish or even violent? It might be tempting to say that Sartre would just say, well, that's their choice. But it goes deeper than that. I think Sartre would agree that every choice reveals a vision of the good, even if that vision is corrupted. So even the selfish person is choosing values. They are just choosing greed over selflessness. They're choosing comfort over sacrifice. They're choosing power over compassion. They're still making a statement about what matters, but they are saying in effect that domination, pleasure, survival, or control are worth chasing at any cost. Honestly, that sounds a lot like society today. Selfishness, greed, and triumph over everything in a dog-eat-dog world. And here's the thing with existential philosophy. You cannot force someone to repent using this philosophy. You cannot hang the higher law over someone, because the higher law that you adhere to or that you believe in is likely different than the one that your neighbor believes in, and much more so the people on the other side of the world. And so what can you do? All we can do is what Sartre does, and that is remind people that they are still free, that they are still accountable, and that they are still ultimately implicated in the image of humanity that they are helping create. Sartre, with existential philosophy, deliberately leaves us without making moral judgment. He presents us with the selfless man and the selfish man, both endorsing a vision for humanity. He will tell us that they are both free, that they are both responsible, and that they are both endorsing a vision for humanity, but he cannot tell us which one deserves to win. And so on what ground do we get to say that compassion is better than domination? Sartre would say that we don't get that ground. Sartre would argue that all we have is our choices that make a judgment call and an endorsement for the vision for humanity that each of us have. And the most honest thing that we can say about the selfish, greedy, violent people in this world is that they are doing the exact same thing that we're doing, just in the opposite direction. And the only thing that is beneath us is our own subjective conviction of what is good. Now, I'm not saying that you have to agree with Sartre. I never think that you have to agree with any of the philosophers. What I am saying is that they have a very unique and interesting and useful perspective. And so I think that if we take a step back and look at the reason why we run ultra marathons or a 5K and ask ourselves, what am I endorsing when I decide to go for a run in the morning or run this race? And it might even come down to the nuance of how you perform that race or how you run every morning. Are you endorsing adventure, commitment, discipline, camaraderie, or victory at all costs? And so when Sartre says that when we are making choices, we are choosing for all mankind, I think what he's doing is reminding us of the fact that when we are making choices, when we are taking action, we are endorsing implicitly the values that are below those actions. And so I think that a question worth asking ourselves then is, what values are you endorsing implicitly with your actions? And would you be willing to defend them out loud? At least that's what I took away from this whole discussion. And I really hope this was interesting or thought-provoking for you. And if it was, I hope you'll stick around, and I'll catch you in the next video.